What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and first off, Happy New Year. Second off, I'm going to be leaving a link down to my Twitch in the description. I've been playing a lot of different games other than Yu-Gi-Oh related stuff, so if you guys are interested in gaming and, overall just sitting around doing whatever, come check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv at ghost underscore 556 underscore YGO. Like I said, link in the description below. And with that, let's get right into my updated Rescue Ace deck profile to be honest, I should have done before the new year. But it's fine. We don't talk about that. Anyways, starting us off with the reason why I needed to update this list so much sooner is because 3 copies of Rescue Ace Airlifter is one thing we got in December. That was a very welcome Christmas gift from Konami to bring back Airlifter, which if you guys don't know, Airlifter on normal summon, or on normal or special, can add a Rescue Ace spell from the deck to the hand. So this grabs your copies of Emergency, it grabs your copy of HQ, and it can grab one of the other 2 spells as well. But on top of that, whenever your opponent activates a monster effect on the board, you contribute it from your hand or field to summon a Rescue Ace monster from your hand that isn't itself. So Airlifter is your 1-card starter, and having him back to 3 means your 1-card combo is much more consistent. And with the current way, or with the way the meta is currently shifted up, or shifted to, and how it looks, having 3 Airlifter feels really good. Next, we have 2 copies of Rescue Ace Hydrant. Hydrant, again, is something that I've run 2 of only because you don't need 3 of it, because of how recurable it is and how you really only need the 1 copy of it. And if 1 copy of it gets completely outed, it's already hard to out anyways. So while you control another Rescue Ace monster, your opponent can't target it for attacks or with card effects, and it can once per turn just add a Rescue Ace monster from the deck to the hand. And also, you can also activate a Rescue Ace quick play spell or trap card the turn it was set by a Rescue Ace monster effect. Hydrant does a lot for the deck, but again, it's already so difficult to deal with by giving itself protection while you simply control another card within the archetype that you don't necessarily need more than 2 of it. 1 is too few, 3 is too many. So if that ends up being the case, running something at 2 is always the answer. It's never play 0 of it, or yeah. Then we're on 2 copies of Turbulence because, well, again, just like Hydrant, Turbulence is kind of difficult to out. Turbulence can special summon itself from the hand by banishing 2 Rescue Ace cards from your graveyard, and then it can set up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells and normal traps from the deck. And then if another card you control is destroyed while he's face up, I believe it's another monster, but I'm going to leave it open-ended as a card, just so I don't know, since I'm not 100% certain, and I don't feel like picking up the card. But anyways, if something you control is popped while he's face up, you can pop a card your opponent controls, so he has built-in, trading. So if your opponent tries to, 1 for 2 you by getting rid of, one of your guys and another card, you still get to pop a card they control, so they never do. Or if they try to 1-for-1 you, it's never a 1-for-1 unless they get rid of Turbulence. And, Turbulence also is a 3k body, already hard to deal with in battle. And with the support of all the different Rescue Ace cards, this guy is nuts. Next, we have our 2 copies of Preventer, because, again, 3 Preventers too many, 1 Preventer is too few, so we run it at 2. And Preventer can special summon itself from the hand by banishing 1 Rescue Ace card from your graveyard, and then it's a quick effect Book of Moon if you control another Rescue Ace monster, and then if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon a Rescue Ace monster from from your banishment zone. Then we're on 2 copies of Rescue Ace Impulse. Originally, I was running Impulse at 3 because, he was a way to consistently get to Hydrant or Turbulence, and would let you do that on turn 0. If you don't open with the Airlifter, Impulse just kind of makes non-games. The reason why is because of his hand trap effect. It's not really a hand trap effect, just can activate on the field. It's like Ghost Ogre, kind of. But when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can tribute it from your hand or field to special summon a Machine Rescue Ace from your deck. And then whenever this one is... oh no, then this one just has some weird attack-related effect for its other effect. We don't care about that effect. We really don't ever summon Impulse unless we're summoning him for Link material. And then outside of Impulse, we are on 1 copy of Fire Engine and 1 copy of Fire Attacker, because these are the other 2 Machine Rescue Ace monsters you would like to summon off of Impulse that aren't Hydrant, Turbulence, or Preventer. Fire Engine. So both of these, hang on before I go into their individual effects. Both of them have the same line of text where if a Rescue Ace monster is normal or special to your field, you can special summon them from your hand. Fire Engine is whenever your opponent normal specials a monster, you can special summon a Rescue Ace monster from your hand? Oh no, it's just whenever a monster is special. You can special a level 4 or lower Rescue Ace monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. There we go. Just needed to double check that really quick. So he lets you search something off of Airlifter on your opponent's turn. Whenever they special summon, he lets you grab another Hydrant from the graveyard. He lets you grab Impulse, I guess. Those are the only level 4 lowers that we're running. And then Fire Attacker is whenever your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except by drawing it for the turn. You can draw 2 cards and discard 1 card. So he lets you cycle through your hand. If you open multiple copies of a hand trap that has a once per turn clause on it, this lets you kind of fix that by getting rid of it. And that is it for the Rescue Ace monsters. So we'll move from here into the Rescue Ace spell traps. Hey, Fire Attacker, quit trying to run away. So now for the Rescue Ace spell traps, we have 3 copies of said Emergency. This is typically what you're summoning off of the normal summon of Airlifter, just simply because the combo line with Airlifter requires that. If you don't open it, of course. So, Emergency lets you special summon a Rescue Ace monster from your deck in defense position, and then you tribute a Rescue Ace monster from your hand or field. And then you can banish it from your graveyard in order to set a Rescue Ace trap from your graveyard. Which, great utility, super, super good card. That second effect only comes up if the game gets grindy, with Raziel specifically, this kind of gets into that grindy spot a little bit. You know, that banish effect gets you into the grindy spot. But the better card for the grind game is your 1 copy of Rescue Ace HQ. This isn't one that's like running it at any more than 1 is too much, just because its effects really aren't amazing. It has 1 really good effect, and its other effects are just kind of like mid with how Rescue Ace decks are built. So HQ, while your opponent controls a monster, all of your Rescue Ace monsters get a 500 attack point boost. So Turbulence becomes a 35-35 instead of a 3k, but only while your opponent has a monster, which, yeah, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Your opponent's going to have a monster, but still, it's meh. And then you also get an additional normal summoner set of a Rescue Ace monster, or you get an additional normal summon of a Rescue Ace monster in addition to your normal summoner set for the turn. But the really, really good effect on this card is it allows you to put 4 Rescue Ace cards from Banish or Graveyard back into your deck. You shuffle them back, and then you draw a singular card. So, essentially, you go positive on 3 cards going back into your deck, And it's a soft one, or I'd say soft ones. It's a once. It's they're yeah, it's soft ones. Yeah, it's a soft once per turn. So if you did run multiple copies of it, whatever. But again, I wouldn't run more than one because you only need the one. So yeah, and then we've got our typical lineup of one rescue, one alert, one extinguish, and one contain. So all of these, along with emergency, all of these have the same line of text where they are always treated as rescue ace cards. Rescue lets you special summon a rescue ace monster from your graveyard, but if you control Hydrant, um, all of these have a bonus effect if you control Hydrant. Rescue's bonus effect if you control Hydrant is it allows you to special summon a monster from your opponent's graveyard to your side of the field. Which back when Snake Eye was running around, I was like, oh, you can use Rescue as a way to steal the Poplar out of the graveyard before it re-puts itself into the back row so that they can't do whatever um, with like Snake Eye's Ash and stuff. But there's also other implications outside of that. I don't know how exactly it is with the Raziel matchup or anything like that. I will admit this deck will struggle against Malice if it ever opens Shifter, which I need to rework the side deck, but the current list didn't really take into account the fact that Malice and Raziel were running around. Well, it kind of did, but it kind of didn't. And on that, that is it for the Rescue Ace cards. Now we're gonna get into our generic spells or spells, I should say. And then after our generic spells, we'll get into our hand traps, and then we'll get into the extra deck and the side deck. So starting us off, we have our one copy of Pot of Prosperity because this card is still limited. And there's a couple of other decks that do play Prosperity that I enjoy that I need to update as well. One of them is our favorite Feathered Friends that everybody just loves to sit down across from. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm being a little sarcastic on that one. Anyways, Pot of Prosperity, everybody knows what it does. Banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck face down, then you reveal the same number of cards off the top of your deck, and you get to choose one from that revealed number, add it to your hand, and you can't draw by card effect for the rest of the turn after this card resolves. And I believe your opponent also takes half damage. Unless I'm thinking of a different pot that prevents you from drawing by other card effects, but I believe this one, I know this one for a fact, makes it to where your opponent takes half damage, which is why it's at 1 because of Tenpai specifically. Next, we're on one copy of Triple Tactics Thrust because we be thrustin'. Um, and on top of that, this card is now easily accessible because of Bonanza. You can pick it up at super rare for like $3, something like that on TCG Player, and you can pick up really pretty versions of it for a lot more money. But being able to pick this card up for as little as you can makes it a really good card to just have access to. Another card within the Triple Tactics line is Triple Tactics Talent that we are also running one of, which both Talents and Prosperity are searchable off of Thrust, and having Thrust in your main deck at least at 1 makes certain side deck options also really good to have at less than 3 so you have more room in the side deck for other things. And Talents is also just another really good card. Everybody knows Talents. Everybody loves Triple Tactics Talents unless you're the person that doesn't own Triple Tactics Talents and you constantly lose to this card because this card is so nuts. This card is bonkers. Being able to just confiscation away another hand trap or a combo starter from your opponent's hand, depending on what the hand looks like. Super insane. But also just being a Pot of Greed or a Snatch Steal, also really good. Then we're on one copy of One for One. This is a card I thought about cutting out, but then I was like, well, you can always go 1-for-1 into. You can always go 1-for-1, summon Hydrant, grab Airlifter, normal summon Airlifter, effect, grab Emergency, away the Airlifter, summon out your Turbulence set 4, and full combo from there. Granted, it's a 1.5 card combo as opposed to just the 1 card combo because you have to have a monster to discard for one. But another card that I'm running that I considered cutting, but then I was like, oh no, that would just be stupid if I cut it, is our 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, because that's just an extra copy of Airlifter. Like, why play 3 when you can play 4 of the best card in your deck? So here we are. We have our 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army. Everybody should know what this does. And then I have 1 copy of Called by the Grave, specifically because quite literally every deck right now is running double-digit hand traps. And I know they have been for a while, but there were a few exceptions in the previous format where people weren't running double-digit hand traps or were running low double digits, like 12, 13 maybe for hand traps. Right now, we're seeing deck lists with as little as 16 and as much as 20 hand traps, I want to say. So, having Called by the Grave, even though, yes, it's a Saki 1-of that you can't grab off of Thrust, Thrust and Talents are essentially more anti-hand trap fuck-offery. So, yeah. And that is going to be it for the generic spells, which I'm pretty sure you guys noticed, all 1-ofs, because it's a 40-card list. And you have a billion 1-ofs, you're bound to draw a bunch of them. It's the Cyber's Pile mentality, but this isn't Cyber's Pile. Anyway, starting us off in the hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, because Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring is a staple hand trap, and it has been since the year of 2017. Yes, this thing is 8 years old. Crazy. It's in the 2nd grade or 3rd grade, depending on when your birthday is. So, Ash Blossom and Joyous fuck off. Ash Blossom and Joyous Ace. Everybody knows Ash Blossom. Anyways, moving on from Ash Blossom, we have 3 copies of Effect Veiler. I feel like Effect Veiler is really good into this format, just specifically based off of how opening multiple Veiler isn't a bad thing, and having multiple Veiler is always going to be a good thing. And then we're on 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, just because it's 2 extra copies of Effect Veiler. But this Effect Veiler only works on monsters special from the extra deck, I believe, or it's just special summon monsters. And then it also does burn damage. It's also a hard once per turn, unlike regular Veiler. So if you open multiple copies of regular Veiler, not being once per turn, you can use multiple copies of it. And then we're also on 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird, just because I feel like Droll is relatively decent into most matchups currently. And even if it's not decent into a certain matchup, you can easily side it out. And then lastly, we're on 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because 3 extra copies of Effect Veiler. That is also not once per turn. Yay! We have 6 non-once per turn copies of Effect Veiler and 2 hard once per turn copies of Effect Veiler. Monster Effect Negation, because monster effects are currently the best things in the game. And that is going to be it for the main deck. We're going to get into the extra deck, which, I'm going to be honest with you guys, really hasn't changed since the last time, so I'm going to try not to go too in-depth with everything, but we're starting off with 1 copy of Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames. Everybody knows Promethean Princess. She allows you to OTK within this deck. And, alongside her partner in crime, Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. I'm also on 1 copy of Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, just because Sunlight Wolf gives you that extra little bit of recursion while going for the OTK line. Next, we have the OTK enabler himself, World Dragon Zealantis, or World Sea Dragon Zealantis. Because the punch of Promethean, summon a monster back, make Raging Phoenix, link Raging Phoenix into Zealantis. Zealantis reset the board. Promethean Princess sends a monster with special summon to your opponent's side of the field. You pop it in a card you control. And then Raging Phoenix sees a monster die, and it's like, I'm back. So there you go. We also have the one copy of Ambler Whale. This is very easily replaceable by either a second copy of SP Little Knight. Spoiler alert for later in the deck list, but this can either be replaced by a second copy of SP Little Knight or other generic extra deck cards, which I am realizing now I should have replaced 3 cards in this extra deck because I'm not playing Super Poly anymore. But that is something that I'm going to address with the side deck is you can play Super Poly in here, and I have the Super Poly targets for if you decide to. But that is a user error, and I am admitting to it now. We're also on one copy of Underworld Goddess because Underworld Goddess, made with an IP Masquerena that we're also running, is pretty good. It's almost an equal amount of removal as making an SP Little Knight with IP Masquerena, but also not quite to the same extent. We're also on one copy of Relinquished Anima because linking off your Hydrant to just simply make, your monster is no longer there and it is a part of me. It's kind of nice. And then we're also on one copy of Hita and one copy of Proxy F Magician. Proxy F Magician does let you make a couple of the quote-unquote super poly targets that I have in here. I just don't usually make Proxy F Magician. And I'm also on one copy of Starslayer Typhon Sky Crisis. And for my super poly targets, we have the late, great, awesome Mud Dragon of the Swamp. You can make this self a Proxy F Magician, and it gives your board protection. One copy of Garura, because, again, you can make this one off of Proxy F Magician. However, the only one that I am running that you cannot make off of Proxy F Magician with this exact deck list is Predaplant Trifio Veridum. Trifio Veridum. I believe that's how you pronounce that. Weird name. Predaplant is nothing but weird names. I love it, but I hate it at the same time. Anyways, Trivio Veridum is Solemn Warning on legs. Whenever your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters, you can just negate the summon. That's literally what it says. You just negate the summon. This is something that I put in here because I originally was running Super Poly, and I completely forgot to change up the extra deck. Garura and Mud Dragon you can still play because of Proxy F Magician if you ever decide to make Proxy F Magician. But if you don't want to run the poly targets, you can run maybe a rank 4. You can run Salamangreat Almirage as another monster that you can, another Link 1 that you can make that's also a fire monster. There's plenty of other generic links that you can make instead of running these fusions. But enough about the extra deck and my blunder of leaving those 3 fusion monsters in. We're going to talk about the side deck and my options and what you can and can't, or what you can take out and what you can put in, but the reasons why I'm running what I'm running. Starting off with probably one card that I'm iffy on is 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This one I'm kind of iffy on, but I also have reasons as to why. Is because when your opponent activates the effect of an Xyz monster on the board, you can discard it to destroy that monster, but you can also send it from the field to the graveyard to pop that monster as well. Being able to remove a body and possibly make certain things like continuous spells miss the timing is invaluable. I believe it also makes field spells miss the timing if they have an on-field activated effect. You can double check that in the rulings, and I would always double check rulings with a judge instead of just listening to me, because I am a very casual player. Next, outside of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which you could technically probably play 2 Ghost Ogre and replace one copy of it with this copy of Super Poly. However, another card I am currently running for this format is Phantasme, because Phantasme is fantastic into the Malice matchup exactly. Just because being able to fix your hand as well as give you a way to protect against targeting is really good, as well as being just a really big body that puts itself on the board. As you can see by mismatching copies, I only have these 2 copies. So yeah, I need to fix that, and I'll eventually fix that. And then I'm on 2 copies of DD Crow. DD Crow is one that you can fully replace. Hey, phone, or dare. Yeah, there we go, phone. Good job. Anyways, DD Crow is something you can completely replace. This is mostly in here just as like a, if you're not playing against the meta and you're playing against something like Dragon Link or whatever the hell else, DD Crow is there to stop like Bystials. It's able to stop the Bystials, and it's not really that great into anything, or it's not really great into Malice. It's exactly Malice where DD Crow is just kind of like you don't want to play it. And then we have the 3rd copy of Ghost Mourner Mulet Chill, as well as the 3rd copy of Droll Mockbird for if you need to play less Mourner or less Droll, or more more Mourner or more Droll, you can board in the 3rd copies. And then another card that I am interested in trying out is Chaos Hunter. Lancia is obviously the go-to card for Malice, which I would replace Crow and maybe even the 3rd Mourner with the copies of Lancia, and then the 3rd or then Ogre could either be fully replaced by Super Poly, but I really like the one of Chaos Hunter just because your card economy in hand is always going to look really, really good. So Chaos Hunter, discarding a card to special summon itself, really isn't a downside. And then we have 3 copies of Evenly Matched and 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier, just because Evenly Matched going into a Ryzeal board is pretty nice, or I say pretty nice. It's really, really nice, and then Barrier also into Ryzeal is really good, as well as Evenly Matched, causing your opponent to banish stuff face down, makes it to where their Malice stuff doesn't activate. So again, if I was to rework this, I would play 3 Lancia instead of the 2 Crow and the 3rd Mourner, and I would play 2 or 3 Super Poly over maybe the 1 extra copy of Droll and 1 copy of Ogre, or if you played 3, I would just replace Ogre altogether. You can also cut out the Dimensional Barriers. You can cut out a copy of Dimensional Barrier at least, because you are running Thrust, for another copy of Hunter. If you really want to play 2 Chaos Hunter, the only reason why I'm on 1 of it is just simply because it's a bit too bricky. If you run more than 1 of it, it just kind of gets stuck in your hand, which is why I feel like people are just running Lancia, because Lancia has an effect in hand. But with that, I am going to end the video here. Like I said, I will be leaving a link to my Twitch channel down in the description below. Go follow me on Twitch. I'm trying to hit affiliate, and I stream just about everything. I'm currently doing a Bloodborne playthrough, and I might start, a new Elden Ring playthrough and a bunch of other. I'm actually doing an entire run through of all the Souls games that I own. The only one I don't own is Sekiro, so if you guys are interested in seeing that, come check me out on Twitch. And if you're interested in horror games or other Yu-Gi-Oh games, also come check me out, because I do want to pick up the Yu-Gi-Oh Retro Collection whenever that comes out in February. And with that, I will see you all in the next video, which hopefully won't take me a month to make. And peace out.